Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today for episode number 514, we've got Scott from Lazy Gaming Guys. Welcome back, Scott.
Thanks. Always glad to be here. It's going to be a fun time.
I appreciate you taking the time off from LGG, who is celebrating Pride Month, being my favorite streaming channel and also a gay streaming channel. So I appreciate you being on. I know you guys were streaming last night.
Mostly.
Yeah, majority.
Yeah.
So it officially is. And you guys were streaming Shredder's Revenge, which we will touch on at the very end on the Brokehead block. But if this is your very first episode, the way we format the show is we go through a block of news, and then we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what Scott and I have been doing since you last heard us, the more personal side of the show. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 514. So we've got some Nintendo news right off the bat, as based on the current virtual console method on the Switch, it's not really, I don't think they're even calling it virtual console, but it's basically how they're making these games available for you to play. Former Nintendo boss Reggie Fils-Aime doesn't believe that any more mini consoles are on the horizon. They had previously released the Super NES one, and he said, quote, in an interview with CNET, "Will there be other physical boxes with legacy content? I don't think so. If I were back at Nintendo for a day, I would be much more focused on how does the company leverage all of its great content, deliver it to the consumer through that Nintendo Online experience, which they are doing. They're putting out some N64 content. They're working with other platform holders to bring out some of that legacy content," end quote. So I know a lot of people, Scott, were asking for the Nintendo 64 Mini, and just based on what he thinks, especially since they're already releasing N64 games, it doesn't sound like he believes it's on its way.
I kind of agree with him, to be honest with you. I think that this is the direction Nintendo is going to be going. Instead of doing the N64 Mini or the GameCube Mini or GBA Mini, and even Reggie, I saw in a different one mentioned that he would love to see a GameCube Mini GameCube Virtual Console on there, and like Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, and that they should just keep. It verifies this one where it's like, yeah, just keep expanding that online offerings to things like GameCube, Game Boy Advance.
I especially think that with the success of Microsoft's Game Pass, I think other companies like Nintendo should try to emulate that. And Nintendo's in a unique position because they have all of these original IPs and legacy content, as he put it, from years before the PlayStation or the Xbox were around, that they can, as he said, leverage into their online pass and to try to make as much monthly or annual profits as they can from the player base. Try to bring in as many and get to as close as possible 100% conversion rate based on Switch owners, where they should make it, kind of like Game Pass is now, so valuable to where you want a console just to have the online library.
Well, and even then, at this point, the Nintendo Online is pretty much the cheapest out of any of them. And the content's there. I mean, it's quality content. There's a ton of it. The only issue I do have is that you're not really downloading them, so you can't play offline.
They're all streamed? They're cloud?
They're not streamed, but it constantly checks for verification from the internet to make sure that you have an active online subscription.
So the restrictions are the same otherwise.
Right. They are, I guess, technically downloaded, like all of them, to your Switch, but not really. You can't play them without an active online, so it's pretty much the same restriction. It just plays better. That would be the only thing that I would think Nintendo has an issue with.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I don't know if Game Pass or the PlayStation ones play offline either.
That'd be a question for like Bobby or Jared or Maceo. Yeah, that's interesting. That'd be an interesting question of if you download it, because I know you can download it at least on Game Pass for most games. Would you then be able to play it, or would it still verify like, hey, do you really have Game Pass, or in this case, Nintendo Online?
Right. Because that might just be a thing with all three. I have no idea. I typically don't play those consoles offline. Whereas the Switch, I mean, part of the point is playing it offline on the go.
Yeah, that'd be nice to be able to have the library of Nintendo on the go, being able to play Game Boy, but instead you need to have that Wi-Fi connection or set up your phone as a hotspot. And even then, I don't know how good the quality would then be. And if they're technically downloaded, maybe it is, maybe it's fine, and it's just
Yeah,
checking to make sure.
As long as it's just looking for verification, it would probably be okay. But at least at home, it is a great little content group, and like if it's just going to keep expanding, then it's just going to keep being worth more of the money that it already is. Because right now you can play NES, SNES, N64, and Sega Genesis on there, and that's a pretty good library. Plus, to Reggie's point, there's some great legacy content that they're slowly starting to bring out, and they have access to all of those first parties. I would love to be playing like Pokemon Red and Blue on there, and then they could add maybe access to Pokemon Bank for Red and Blue, so you could actually transfer them to that, and then maybe the Sword and Shield. That would be really cool. Or the new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Now, if you were in charge of Nintendo and making those decisions, would you personally release an N64 Mini to go with the other consoles?
I don't know. That's a tough decision at this point, because I do realize there's still a lot of people that enjoy the physical market for these things and see the mini consoles as more of a collector's item and a little showpiece. So there would still be a temptation there, and you would, I guess, have to do a little more market research, because the NES and SNES minis sold really well.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, they were off store shelves instantly, and even every time they got a restock, it was an instant sellout. So clearly there's still a demand for those types of things. So I would almost say that it'd be a good idea in a way to have both available, but I would also gauge it through the online service. Okay, well, how many people are playing these N64 games and stuff like that? If it's really a ton of people that are clamoring for this, we'll release it as a trial. Just the N64 Mini. If that bombs, no more of these mini consoles at that point.
And we do also have some DC video game news, as I know you're following this a little bit closer than I am. WB Games Montreal, which is the studio behind Gotham Knights, and they also did Batman Arkham Origins, has confirmed that the title will contain a feature in co-op where players can choose the same character. And the executive producer, Floor Marty, said, quote, "We know some people will want to have different characters, but some won't care. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a funny moment in the game if you are playing as two of the same character. We're giving you complete freedom," end quote. So Clayface confirmed. Is that not it?
That would be great. Like if it's just like, yeah, no, what do you mean? It's just Clayface fighting as Robin or, Batgirl.
I guess they could also do a multiverse thing and have them different costumes or whatever. But you were just saying before we recorded that there's a neat feature for if two players are playing co-op and one is further in the story than the other.
Yeah. So if one person is further in the story, you can still play with your friend that's farther and do the mission and stuff like that until whenever you're done with go for that day. And then you can go back to your own game. And when you get to that mission, the game will give you an option to skip it, because they go, well, you've already done this with a friend. If you want to do it again, you can. If not, you can skip on to where you finished off with them in their session. And that's a really nice feature for a multiplayer game.
I do like that a lot, giving you the option of, no, we've already gone through this, instead of having to go back and redo the whole mission. I'm personally going to hold off on Gotham Knights. I'm not a huge fan. I do like, is Damian Wayne one of the Robins, or is that Tim Drake?
I don't remember. I think it's Tim Drake.
Well, regardless,
I don't think it's Damian.
Even if Damian were in it, I don't like the other characters enough to buy the game, especially not Nightwing or anything like that. Plus, it is WB Games Montreal, and I like Rocksteady a whole lot more. There'd be more of a chance of me getting Suicide Squad than this one. But I know a lot of people are looking forward to this, and I think most recently they did announce that this game was going to be on current gen only and not on PS4 or 360.
Xbox One.
Xbox One. So that'll give, I'm assuming, the developers more tools to hopefully flesh the game out, make it bigger, make it better, or at the very least cut their costs on distribution.
Yeah, I think we're at that point where you're going to start seeing more and more games start going to next gen only to both help with like development and stuff like that because it's hard to develop the whole different versions of each one at the same time. It just costs more, and right now with things already being delayed, it's more beneficial to just focus on the next gen right away.
Right now, it is set to release on October 25th, so it's going to be a great Christmas title as well for the holidays, assuming it's available based on all the different shortages and all that. I'm sure it'll be okay. If anything, the digital copies should be available, which is how a lot of players play these days anyway. And we also got an appearance on a Twitch stream by Tony Hawk, who confirmed that plans for additional remakes of the Pro Skater series were shelved after Vicarious Visions merged with Blizzard Entertainment. So following the merger, the developer is now focused exclusively on providing support for games, the moneymakers, World of Warcraft and Overwatch. And some people are speculating that all of this could change, though, after Microsoft's purchase of Activision Blizzard gets approved, if it gets approved. Xbox boss Phil Spencer has already made it known that he would like to bring back some of Activision's dormant franchises. So there is that possibility. I don't know how well Pro Skater did, the remakes, but I know that I heard positive buzz about it. And obviously, Tony Hawk is game to try to redo more of the Pro Skater series.
Yeah, I don't think the Pro Skater series did terrible, but I don't think it did like amazing either from what I've seen. But I mean, clearly we don't have the sales numbers. It would make sense though to focus on obviously their two big money makers with Overwatch and WoW. I can't really fault them as a business for that. I think the only Tony Hawk Pro Skater though I'd really like to see them remaster or remake would be Thug.
I never played that one.
That was such a good one.
That was on PS2 and Xbox, right?
Yeah. That was a very good one where you could actually walk around without being on the skateboard at all times.
Open world?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or as open world as you could get on a PS2 Xbox, original Xbox.
Right.
You
well, with Phil saying that he wants to bring back some of Activision's dormant franchises, are there any franchises that you think Activision just completely killed that you would maybe want to see brought back in some form?
I can't even think of one right off the top of my head.
Like obviously Tony Hawk would be great if they can even release the original versions as Game Pass or whatever and try to make more money off of those too. I'm pulling up a list here of Activision. There's Spyro, CTR, Crash Team. Crash is still going.
Yeah, but Crash and Spyro have both already come back out. Like
they came out with
brought back. Well, we saw the trilogy remaster or remake for Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, along with Crash Team Racing for Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, I wonder what Phil is referring to then. Obviously, there's also Prototype, which did okay for its time, the Deadpool game. There was Guitar Hero. Maybe he's referring to Guitar Hero. Imagine trying to bring that back.
Because like Wolfenstein also tried coming back twice and did okay, but nothing great. Tenchu would be an interesting one, but like I don't think many people really cared that much about Tenchu.
It'll be interesting to see what he was referring to then, and maybe it is Pro Skater, who knows, and we'll only find out years down the line if this acquisition actually gets greenlit and everything goes through okay. But we do have some box office results as Jurassic World Dominion has crossed the 650 million worldwide mark over the last weekend. Based on today, I'm pretty sure it's crossed 700 to 800 million if I had to guess. But Top Gun Maverick cruised past 900 million globally, keeping the film on a trajectory for 1 billion. So it sounds like it's definitely going to hit $1 billion there. Disney's Lightyear underperformed and struggled with an underwhelming 51 million, and they were projecting 85 million on it. It's easy to say after the fact, including myself, but I like seeing the hype that was behind it from people like Campia, like it's going to be Best Picture. And now that it's underperforming, it's like, well, who wanted to see this movie anyway? Why did they make this one? What do they call it? Quarterback armchairing or whatever, the armchair quarterback? I don't know. But I honestly was surprised that Lightyear underperformed the way it did, even with Top Gun and Jurassic World on there, because people need a kids movie to watch during all of this. But I guess kids wanted to go see fucking dinosaurs, and why not?
I don't know. I hear people complaining about like the lesbian kiss and stuff like that. So like, but even then, I just don't think most. I don't even know if most children are back in going to theaters because they have to rely on their parents.
Well, Sonic the Hedgehog 2
But
did really well.
yeah, but you also had people like Justin going and watching Sonic the Hedgehog 2 multiple times. Like that wasn't just a kids movie.
Well, I don't think Lightyear is either because it's aiming at the Toy Story fan base, which
I
is
don't know.
pretty big. They've done
I
four of
wasn't
those
wanting to
things.
watch it. Like,
You also haven't
I'm
been
not
in
going to see
theaters
it.
in a while though. Like since San-Chi, I think was the last. You have a very odd theatrical like record.
But yeah, because I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't want to see Lightyear. I don't want to see it really much on Disney Plus when it eventually shows up on there. I'm just kind of like, eh. See, I think that's the other thing too with that Disney movie is like people are like, I don't really want to pay money to go watch Lightyear. Like if it shows up on Disney Plus for free in 3 months, I'll watch it then. Because they know it's going to be 2 or 3 months. It's going to show up for free on their Disney Plus. Why bother going and see it in theaters? And Disney should have planned for that and been like, hey, this isn't going to do that well in the box office. But that's on them. They projected like what 81 million or
85,
85.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me is Top Gun Maverick is going to be on Paramount Plus, but people still go. Like that's it's kind of insane. Like
But
it's going
see,
to hit
I
a
think that
billion.
one's going to be more of a theater experience. Like I think seeing that on the big screen would be better than seeing it on your small screen.
Did that kind of floor you too? I know a lot of people, everyone I ask is like, oh, of course it was going to do well. And it's like, what do you mean, of course? Who would have guessed that a Top Gun sequel was going to hit $1 billion fucking
Yeah,
dollars?
I will say I figured it was going to do well. Like I never thought it was going to flop, but I was not expecting on trajectory for $1 billion.
Fucking insane. It's going to be the best movie so far of this year as far as like box office. Like I can't think of another. Well, maybe when Avatar comes out, that might hit $1 billion, but like this is right. It's going to be tough to top Maverick.
Yeah, weirdly enough.
I did watch Jurassic World Dominion. I took Leo and he loved it. I'm like, it was kind of cool to see the old, no spoilers or anything, but it was cool to see the old cast in there. And I was a little worried that they were only going to be in there as like a cameo, like, oh, and here they are, and they're going to meet up with them and they're going to escape a dinosaur. But then the main characters, Chris Pratt and Claire they're still the main characters, but no, their original cast members are there throughout like most of the fucking movie alongside the guys from Jurassic World, which is really neat.
That's really good because yeah, I was pretty much figuring like it was just trailer bait.
Exactly. Like they're kind of old. You don't want them running around fighting dinosaurs. No, fuck. You're going to fight dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's in your contract. They own you.
Pretty amazing. But when I have Kelly on, I think we might do like a short review of that movie since she's seen it twice and I've seen it once already. We do have some comic book news as well, as IDW is going to be publishing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures as a 4-issue limited series by Eric Burnham, who worked on Red Sonja, and Tim Lottie as the artist, who also worked on Ghostbusters. And this adapts the animated series for comics. And the first issue will hit shelves in September. There's going to be a main cover and additional variants by Laddie, but also by TMNT co-creator Kevin Eastman and Tony Gregori. So I don't know how Kevin Eastman's going to do Saturday Morning Turtles, but I guess he's going to attempt it. And I thought it was smart of them to leave this as a 4-issue mini because I don't know if you can really pull off some long-term stories on those old cartoons in comic form.
Yeah, I figure it's probably going to be like what greatest hits of the animated series or type of thing, where it's like we'll show off some of the best moments or characters. Because 4 issues really isn't enough to adapt a whole like 7-season series. But to your point, anything other than a limited series, I think would be too much. I was kind of hoping for 6 issues, just 2 more instead of a 4-issue mini. But yeah, anything beyond 6 would have been like, nah, we're good.
It might be one of those instances that IDW did this in the past with DC, where Batman the Animated Series Adventures, that one I think was 4 or 6 initially, and then based on sales for 1 or 2, they were like, okay, we're going to do 4 more issues. It's now a 8-issue miniseries. So they could pull that off with this. I'm not too sure. Hype seems to be there. I don't know. Have you gone back and watched the old TMNT cartoon? Was that something you at all grew up on?
I grew up on random VHS tapes of it. Like I would find the VHS tapes in the dollar store or something like that, where it's just like the greatest hits. of like Bebop or Rocksteady, and it was just 2 or 3 episodes.
Mhm.
And I'd watch those, and then I'd watch it occasionally when reruns would come on. But I have fond memories of it. I have not watched it as an adult, like going back and going, oh, does it hold up? Like, that's a whole different story. I don't know on that one.
Yes, that I do have also fond memories of the show and the cartoon. I watched it a lot as a kid. I'm afraid to go back because all I hear is people that did go back and watch it are like, it's fucking terrible. It's not the animated Batman, the animated series. It's not, for some people, the X-Men. It's just fucking terrible. And I'm afraid of that. And it's not a cartoon I will show Leo probably, but this comic I will check out because I'm hoping that Eric Burnham maybe has a story that he wanted to tell, or they introduce the animated series version of a TMNT character. Like, I think that'd be kind of neat.
I think it'll be at least a neat little thing to try out, and hopefully a good version for nostalgia of the old Ninja Turtles without being like, man, this sucks.
Yeah,
Like,
they're all basically the same personality when I watch like some retrospectives on it, and that this was before. Okay, Raph's the loner, angry one. Like the live action movie did a lot of that, established a lot of those things. And the cartoon was, they were all happy. Like they were all Michelangelos, basically.
yeah, which is like, so might as well just be clones. Got it.
We also have some controversy here from The Flash. We've got a couple of stories on it, as DC Comics has pulled The Flash director's drawn variant to The Fastest Man Alive #1. So you heard that right. The cover was drawn by Andy Muschietti himself, and it showcases Batfleck battling a villain in the background while a naked Ezra Miller suits up. Of course, they opted to skip on this variant based on the allegations that are coming out on Ezra Miller. But the timing is fucking insane. Like, what a weird thing to naked Ezra Miller, and now he's accused of things with underage people, possibly. It's just kind of like, who would have fucking hit that lottery?
Yeah. It's like, what are the odds? Like, why? Like, I still don't get why the director decided, you know what? I get to make a cover? Cool. I'm going to make a naked Ezra Miller suiting up in the Flash suit. Like, that's the cover I have envisioned in my mind.
That also told me that his vision for the Flash is like, oh, this is funny. It's like, all right, well, this movie's not going to be serious.
Oh, well, I guess that's why he envisioned a naked Ezra Miller suiting up into the Flash suit.
I'll give the dude credit. Like, he can draw a Batman pretty well. Like, I'm like, holy shit, this guy's like a legit drawer.
Yeah.
He can do a cover.
Like, he's not bad. It's just, why? Like, why did you choose that?
No one in editorial went, why don't we have an action shot? No, this is good. This is an action shot. He's suiting up. Batman's in the back battling someone. That's an action shot.
Yeah, he's performing in action. Like, he's getting dressed. Literally an action shot.
I'm glad they cut it, though, because I don't think it, aside from the controversy now, if they were to release it, maybe they could move some copies. But if none of the controversy had happened, I don't see this fucking cover moving. It's not particularly cool. Like, it's just the gimmick is that Andy drew it. And that's kind of rare. You don't see directors with too much hand-drawn talent. Like, the only other person I can think of are Zack Snyder, now Andy Muschietti, maybe some of the directors that do storyboarding. I'm not too sure, though. It's pretty rare.
It is, to your point, a gimmick cover. That's what it was intended to be. And yeah, without the controversy, that thing would have sat on shelves, I guarantee. I'm sure a few would have sold, but although it'd be one of those speculator covers, I bet.
That's true. Yeah. At this point, especially.
Oh, yeah.
We also have... Go ahead.
I wonder if they had any made already of the cover, or if they pulled it before production happened.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the FOC on it, because if numbers could still be adjusted, then they can easily cut down the printing on it. But that'd be interesting to know if they're just going to destroy any printed copies, or if they'll just do like a very limited release on them. Things could still change on the solicitations. I believe this particular issue was in the latest solicitations that are coming out in previews next week. I could be wrong, though.
Okay.
Grant Morrison, he's a comic book superstar, and some people like him, some people don't like him. I tend to not like as many stories from him as others, but I'm also, I guess I'm not smart enough to understand a lot of the stuff that he comes up with. So I'll leave it at that. But in an interview with Rolling Stone, Grant Morrison reflected on his time working on the Flash movie script before his version was skipped over. He said, quote, Warner Brothers only gave us 2 weeks. It was cruelty, you know. It was hardcore. We had to be like the Flash to get this thing done, and they were looking for something quite different. I got paid, and it was good fun. It didn't do the job they were looking for, which was to franchise things and set things up, and bring other characters in. It was a Flash story, so it wasn't where they wanted to go with multiverse and stuff. And that was the end of it, end quote. So it sounds like his version of the script was a lot more focused, rather than bring in Ben Affleck, bring in Michael Keaton, bring in all these other characters. I think he just set out to write a strong Flash story, and that's not what they were looking for.
That's exactly what it sounds like, is he just wanted to make a Flash movie, and they wanted a multiverse movie instead of a Flash movie, where it's like, no, you've got to bring in these people to set up this movie, or to allude to this movie that we're going to make later, or this movie, or this character. We have to introduce them now so that people understand the character later. The kind of MCU way of doing it.
Plus undoing a bunch of movies that came out before, because I don't know if you've heard of it, but the plot points already came out on The Flash, where by him changing, almost like Flashpoint, he goes back, saves his mom, and all of that stuff happens. But by doing that, he also changes the DC extended universe to where Henry Cavill's Superman dies on Krypton, and instead it's Supergirl that retroactively is in Man of Steel instead, fighting Zod.
Really?
And they make it so that Zod doesn't get killed. So they go back and address all of the issues that some of these reviewers had with Man of Steel.
Wake the fuck up!
And they undo it all. Basically, they erase the Snyderverse in this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Grant might have been given some of those notes, or at least later script writers. And some people are like, great, I'll work this into it and I'll get paid. I don't give a shit. And he's one that was like, no, that was the script and they didn't like it. So whatever, I got what I needed.
Yeah, and at least he got paid still for it. I'm curious if his version will ever be able to come out, like just as the script. Probably not.
That's the problem.
Contracts and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, Warner Brothers retains the rights to that script. So what they'll do a lot of times is when they're coming out with a new movie or trying to come up with ideas, they'll dig into these scripts that they own and they'll pull some ideas from them and tell the new script drafter, like, hey, can you implement these ideas in here? And then you'll get a whole different Frankenstein script out of it. And it's a shame because I know Paul Dini and Bruce Timm both wrote a live action Batman Beyond movie that they got paid for. And then Warner Brothers decided to go with Batman Begins and the Christopher Nolan Christian Bale version. But it would have been neat to read their version of a live action Batman Beyond.
That would have been actually pretty cool. Curious if at least they can mention a few plot points or something like that without breaking contract.
Right. And sometimes you'll get some companies like Dark Horse where they'll do, here's the original script to Alien 3 or the original Star Wars, and as a comic book. So there's been some nice instances where they're able to adapt it in some other form, but it's so rare. And that's the crazy part, because I feel like if they were to take some of these scripts and make them available or put them out as a comic and then make the script the background pages or something so you can still read the script also, I think you could make a little bit of extra money off of it. Nothing crazy, but a little bit something.
Yeah. Even just books, like, okay, well, here's the script, like literally just as a book, essentially, for $10,
We've been begging for like the Ben Affleck script for the Batman movie, and we're never gonna get it, unfortunately. But all we get is Jay Oliva, who worked on it. He worked on the animated stuff, and he worked on storyboards for this movie. And he's like, all I can tell you, it was the greatest Batman script I've ever read. And it's like, come on, man, tell us more. And we also have some more Ezra Miller news, as they have deleted their Instagram after posting weird memes and messages like, you cannot touch me, I am in another universe. This all comes after Miller had legal plans drawn up against them by the Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Court. This case has allegations of a possible relationship with a current 18-year-old going back 6 years. So clearly during a time when they were underage, 12 years and onward. So that's the big thing. And from what I understand, they can't find Ezra right now. So he could very well be in another universe.
Yeah. People with money, you never know where they can end up being.
Dude straight up turned into the Flash and left.
Yeah.
We laugh about it, but what if he never shows back up? He just disappears. They never find him.
mean, we'd be at the end of all of these cases. We finally would stop seeing Ezra Miller did this, Ezra Miller did
Mhm.
that, Ezra Miller is under arrest for this. Like, that's pretty much been the news feed for the last few weeks. Is just Ezra Miller punched someone.
Mhm.
Ezra Miller punched someone again. Ezra Miller's grooming children. Like,
Right. And these current allegations right now, obviously nothing's been proven or anything like that. So I won't. I don't know. We don't know
yeah,
anything
they are
yet.
just strictly allegations in this one. The
Correct.
punching one's absolutely happened,
Yes.
apparently. Like, but this one is purely allegation right now. It's not our job to decide one way or another of guilt, but
Right.
it is kind of interesting that it all just keeps piling on.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem. Like the 18-year-old has said, no, nothing happened. I wasn't groomed or anything, but the parents are saying they were, and
Well,
there's all kinds of stuff.
yeah, because the person being groomed wouldn't think they're being groomed. That's
True.
the whole, like, it's the whole thing of grooming is that they don't realize it. But at the same time, like, if he was having a relationship with a 12-year-old, that is wrong. Period.
Correct. And again, that hasn't. I don't think she's herself said anything about that part of it. But regardless, this movie's fucked, man. There's no way the Flash does well at all, in spite of what may or may not be true, because it's under. First off, the fan base that I'm a part of, the Snyderverse, we're boycotting it because it's going back and changing things in the Snyderverse. It's trying to. And then there's these allegations. We know he has gone down for drunken, disorderly conduct. He's been violent with his fans and with other people at bars, things that he's gotten arrested for, that they've gotten arrested for. And now there's this giant cloud over this movie that they can't refilm because it's done. You can't recast Ezra and put someone else in there. That's going to be way too expensive. It's like, what do you fucking do with this goddamn thing? You got to take your loss, but it's going to be in the millions.
Oh yeah, you have to release it still. It's too done to do anything else with. It'd be one thing if they were they just finished principal shooting or something like that. You could maybe go back and recast at that point. It would still be expensive, but you could do something. I mean, from what I understand, this movie's already edited, done. Like, it's done. It's just waiting for release date. And yeah, you just release it, you hope for the best, and you move on.
If I were them, I would cut down, Warner Brothers Discovery especially, cut down on the merchandise, cut down on the marketing. Like, I would really be like, look, we're going to waste as little money on this thing as possible.
Agreed. Like, you don't even market it at all, other than maybe like a tweet or two when it comes out.
Shit that costs nothing.
Yeah, like little tiny amounts of marketing that would be minuscule dollars, no toys or products at all, like nothing. I don't even think like a McFarlane figure at this point, like just nothing. Do not spend a penny on merchandise for it and just call it a day.
Absolutely.
It's not going to do well. After all the controversies and stuff with this, it's just, there's no point.
No, not at all. And I know with Justice League 2 and 3, obviously the Flash is a big part of that movie. We're still waiting to see what Zack, if he's going to recast or not, or if he's going to rewrite the Flash out of the film. We don't know. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year. And if more comes out of this case, because I think at that point, if they are guilty of this particular allegation, this current one, I think you have to you don't have Ezra Miller in Justice League 2 and 3. It's just not going to happen.
No, because this is a much more serious allegation than drunken brawl or something like that.
And that does wrap up the bulk of our news this week. We head into the Brokehead block now, which is what Scott and I have been doing since you last heard us. So Scott, I'm sure with you, it's a lot of anime and a lot of gaming, but give me your impressions on Shredder's Revenge since you guys streamed that this week.
So it's a really fun love letter to old Ninja Turtles, and it's a really good side-scrolling beat 'em up, arcade style, quarter muncher. But at the same time, like, it is a ton of fun to play with friends, especially. The story mode is actually pretty good on its own as well. Decent replayability. It's a little bit of a short game, but the price point for it being currently only about $22 justifies that that's fine. Like you're gonna get enough playtime out of it that it's worth the $20 investment. And I also like the character selection, having
Mhm.
6 different characters that you can play as, or is it 7?
Let's see. You got the 4 turtles,
7.
April,
Casey
Splinter, and then
Jones and Splinter.
Casey Jones, 7. Yep.
So 7 characters, and you can have 6-player co-op online, which is really fun. It is hectic as can be, but very, very fun. Like overall, I'm very happy with this game. And some of the music is really good.
Leo and I played it. We beat it, and it was easy enough to where he could pick it up and beat up. You know, you don't see a lot of games like that, really. Like I know there's Streets of Rage. They've come out with a bunch of those games, but this is something that Leo was like, "Oh, I love the turtles. This is awesome, and it's colorful and all of that. Like you got all the different colored foot ninjas, just like in the old arcade versions. Which they are coming out with a collection, the Cowabunga collection, I think in a month or two, and that will have all the old ones, from what I understand, including the fighting game." And all in one collection, which I did pre-order months ago. And so I'll see if Leo maybe wants to play that one. Although I think the old school ones are harder than the new one. Did you get that same impression?
I think with the Cowabunga collection that they adjust, have difficulty adjustments.
Nice.
Yeah, the old ones were way, way tougher. For anyone that wants to watch our Lazy Gaming Guys stream, then you'll have the links and all that. But at the same time, we played through on the normal difficulty, and we just breezed through that game.
When you guys kept
Looking back, we should have probably played on hard, like the hardest difficulty, but I wanted to make sure we could actually beat the game on stream.
Well, did anyone lose all their lives? Can you just hit start and keep going?
Arcade mode, you have limited lives, limited continues to beat the game. So I was kind of worried with the limited continues, but none of us ever used a continue, and I think at most we used 1 or 2 lives each for the whole game. It's a very different experience playing with 5-player co-op.
Yeah, it got insane when you guys got to boss fights and everyone's using their special on them, like, and the screen is just like, oh my god, that boss guy is getting gangbanged. They're like, this is over.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times that you just can't tell what character you are, where your character is, because it's just a mass of like effects and enemies and characters. Like it's hectic, but it's fun. It is honestly a really fun experience.
When I was playing with Leo, he was doing well. Like we were beating up guys and all that stuff. But when he got to the boss fight, he was like, "Oh, you beat him up, Dad. You beat him up." And he would hide in the corner. And I'm like, "All right," because he didn't want to get hurt or die. He's like, "The guy's too strong. You beat him up." And I'm like, "All right, fine." And he wouldn't want to use his specials. I'm like, "Hey, Leo, you got 2 specials." And he's like, "I'm going to save them." And I'm like, "Oh, come on. Now's the time to use them." He just,
now you got to save them for eventually.
I guess, saved all his health for eventually, saved all his specials for eventually. And then we beat the game, the final boss. And he's like, "All right, let's start over." And now he chose Donnie, who I played as. So
nice.
Level 10 Donnie. And then I restarted with Splinter. So I'm leveling him up as we go through the story mode as well. And I do recommend it. Yeah, it is on sale for 22-ish plus tax. I didn't have enough to get the game, but then I remembered the GameStop points that I do have from the years of buying games. So I was like, can I use the points on a PSN card digitally? And it's like, okay, I can. So then I redeemed the points towards TMNT, and it was perfect. I'm like, okay, great, I can play this. And it worked out. Nice.
You gotta love when those GameStop points can come in clutch.
Yeah, I don't know how many more I'm going to be earning these days, because like you and so many others, they've lost their local GameStops. I've seen it's not just our area, and throughout the nation and probably the world, because I know they are a worldwide company. They've been closing down a bunch of stores to try to save money on their end. And I get it, but when you're, 25 to half an hour driving distance from our houses, it's not worth the trip to mess around at GameStop. When it's like, what are you going to go there for? Funko Pops? Yeah. Or it's like, what else would you go there for? Your pre-orders? You can, at that point, it's not worth driving 40 minutes. Just get it on Target or wherever.
Yeah, somewhere closer. Best Buy, Target, even a Walmart if you have to. Like, there's so many different other options. What made GameStop nice was that it was close by. It was convenient. And that it was specialized in games. So that's cool. Plus, I'd get my $5 off coupon every month. So it made it worth the trip over because I didn't have to go far. going 30 minutes out of the way with gas prices as they are, $5 off isn't really worth anything.
And I talked to Maceo briefly about it when he talked about how GameStop is no longer really a gaming store at the end of the day. And I know you and I have been going to that company for years for our games and pre-orders, all that stuff, our systems.
Yeah.
How do you feel now, the state of the company, and seeing kind of how they're closing down and the change of identity?
I mean, I am sad to see it go. There's always going to be that nostalgia for it and stuff like that. Plus, I like the specialized stores. Like, I miss a lot of those things, like Toys R Us being the specialized toy store, or the old KB toys and stuff like that. You just don't see them much anymore. It's more of, okay, it's like a Target or a Walmart where it's a little bit of everything, instead of, no, this is just a toy store as far as the eye can see. Or GameStop, it's just a game store. So once they started adding more stuff, it started getting kind of weird. I remember GameStop's foray into DVDs and Blu-rays. That was strange, but I guess it kind of made sense, with the groups and all that were in there.
They owned the movie stuff, so I'm assuming they went, okay, we got all this stock of movies. Why don't we spread it throughout our thousands of stores and try to move some of this?
And I'm sure they specifically chose what to put in there, because I would always find like anime and stuff like that in the GameStops, which would make sense, along with like a few other popular movies at the time.
I know you mentioned the movies. That didn't last long at my GameStop when I worked at the mall. And that was one, but I was so happy when the Blu-rays did show up though, like even though it was a few, because Blu-rays were expensive back then, like really expensive. And then we would get these used ones that would come in. So it's like, oh, cool. I can buy a Blu-ray used with my discount plus power-up rewards and get it or the Edge card, I think is what it was back then. Get it for $12. Like $12 for a Blu-ray was a fucking deal.
Yeah, because they weren't the $20 Blu-rays that you see nowadays. Like
for a new one, yeah.
Yeah, more like $40.
Basically the 4K prices now.
Yes. GameStop at this point, granted, a lot of the stuff they still put in there are mostly things that are tied to stuff gamers would go for, like the anime figures or comic book figures, trading card game stuff, some board game stuff. But I don't know, it's just been kind of weird watching it. And I think that it's been them just struggling for a long time.
But
it'll be sad to see them go.
Yeah, I left the company right as they were starting to getting to, okay, we're going to carry statues. We're going to have plush. We're going to have trading cards. They talked about comics, carrying comics. And I think they tested it in some markets, including retro consoles. That was a big one. And I think some GameStops, more commonly, you'll find some retro stuff now than before. But that was about the time where I was leaving. And they did that terrible deal where they bought up ThinkGeek, or I forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
And it was like, why'd you buy them? And it was like, all right.
Like ThinkGeek went all pretty much under.
They did. They should have. I don't know. I don't know the business side of it, but to me, maybe you look up what it would take instead to open an account with whatever distributor ThinkGeek has or uses and go around them instead of buying the company and trying to, I don't know, but it obviously hasn't been working out too well for them. And I get it. They got to diversify. They got to carry more than games these days, especially since more consoles are going digital, more gamers are going digital, especially with things like Game Pass. But I really don't know what the answer is to GameStop. And as you said, they're not the GameStop that you and I really know anymore. It is a very different store, and one that I don't see being around in the next 5 years unless they get bought up by someone else.
Yeah. And one thing that I think we're going to see happen once GameStop goes away completely is you're going to see the price of used games go up tremendously for newer consoles, because GameStop always kind of acted as like a balance for a lot of used game prices, because people wouldn't pay more than, well, GameStop's selling it for, $10-15. Like, why would I pay $40 online for it when I can order it from GameStop? Whereas we would see it happen once GameStop would stop carrying something like, okay, they're done with PS2 and Xbox. Suddenly, a lot of those rarer games start popping up for huge prices. A good example is the Dot Hack games.
Yeah, I remember that.
The fourth game in the series online was going for about $100. At GameStop, it was $20 if you could find a copy.
There's one
So-
instance at the GameStop by the college that we had all the Dot Hack games in stock used, and we're like, this is never going to happen again, because sure enough, someone bought
Yeah.
just one or just the other, and I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. But as soon as GameStop went away, good luck finding it for anything under 150, $200 now. Now, granted, at that point, if it wasn't in stock at GameStop, the prices online were still the thing. But people had options. They had a cheaper place that they could keep an eye out on or search around for. Whereas once that went away, this is the price you're paying, period. Everywhere.
I'm sure over the next couple of years, we'll be talking about GameStop fully shutting down, or again, a transitional period where they get bought up by someone else. And you will hear about it right here too, because Maceo and I used to work there. You obviously were a big regular at mine
Yeah.
and at others. So we'll see what happens. I know you've been watching, you released the Ronin console, the latest, or at least Millennial Mike did. Were you on that latest episode? Have you been watching a
Yeah.
ton of anime?
Yeah. So we've been watching a bunch of seasonal stuff, which we'll have to finish or do our season finale soon. But yeah, I've been watching Spy X Family is a really good one from this season. And that one's kind of one of the more popular ones of this season.
People love that anime.
It's decently fun. It's a decent fun anime adaptation. And there's been a few isekai anime or otherworld anime that I've been watching, like Skeleton Knight and Otherworld, along with Greatest Demon Lord Reborn as a typical nobody.
These titles are so wild, man.
So I found out why the titles end up being like that is because apparently with the light novels in Japan, the fans don't read the descriptions of the novels. They just look
Oh.
at the cover and the title and then make a decision on whether they want to purchase it or not. So the authors started just making the titles essentially descriptions of what the series is because they are literally judging a book by its cover.
And then from there, they do a direct translation, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the English companies just do a direct translation, so you get these long ass titles.
Well, now I have an answer. Thank you.
Yeah. So you can blame the Japanese fans for not wanting to read the backs of these books.
Motherfuckers.
Like that is the reason we're getting these long titles.
Now we get silly titles. That time I was reborn as a blob, and then this my ex-girlfriend. It's like, Jesus. Fuck.
Yeah. One of my favorite titles is actually a PS4 game. It's like 250 words long.
Oh my God. Why?
I don't know. It's great though. If anyone ever wants to look it up, it does have the longest title for a video game ever.
You said it was on PS4?
Yeah.
Longest PS4 title. 65 words long is what I'm
Okay,
seeing.
65. My bad. It must have been that.
Summertime High School, for short.
Yes.
Summertime High School, a young man's note how a new exchange student like myself ran into... Yeah, so it is a description of the plot.
Yeah, it is like an entire description of the plot.
He only takes panty shots and what he thinks as he goes on dates during his summer of island school life.
It's like
I
they just
skipped
took
some
the-
of it too.
I feel like they were supposed to just have a blurb on the back, and it's like, you know what? Instead of that blurb, let's just make that the title.
Insane. Well, I'm glad
But-
more episodes of Ronin Console have been coming out. That's awesome. I know
Yeah.
you've been watching a lot of anime because of the podcast. Have you been caught up now, or is it still like you mainly going down and hitting your list of anime aside from like reading or doing comics or movies or whatever?
So for the most part, I've been keeping up and enjoying like the series. There are a few exceptions where I get behind on some of them because they just have a rough patch and I'm just not feeling like watching through it. But for the most part, like it's just the series that I'm enjoying and wanting to watch and talk about. So I'm able to actually keep up with them and experiencing some newer animes that I wouldn't have necessarily given a chance, at least while they were airing, if it wasn't for the podcast, which is nice. Like it's making me watch a lot more of these as they come out than I normally would have.
Well, that's good, man. That's good. That means more episodes of Ronin Console are on their way, which I do enjoy your guys' podcast. It keeps me up on anime, even though I'm not able to watch hardly any of it. So thank you.
And we have, all the news and stuff like that from anime, which is always fun. So
I've been happy to finally be back at work after catching COVID, which I covered last week. And finally, I got my negative test, so I missed a week of work. And because of that, I could not go on a week-long vacation with Kelly and Leo and the in-laws up to Georgia. So the idea was, okay, I can take a week off. It's like, oh, now I can't afford to take 2 weeks off because I don't have sick pay or vacation hours at this new job. So it was like, okay, lost income. And then the governor pulled funding for, I guess they would credit companies for if an employee was out during COVID or with COVID. So that's no longer a thing. So it's like, I was shit out of luck, basically.
Dang.
Being sick. So couldn't go on there. So back at work, kind of, I guess, the house to myself. So I miss them a lot. And it's only day one as at the time we're recording right now. I'm sure by the end of the week, by the end of the 7 days, and yeah, I've got work, but it's like, all right, I'm ready to see my 4-year-old and my wife and all that. But for now, like today, I just ran errands, and tomorrow I'm going to do yard work, and then I go back to work. So it's kind of like I'll have some time in the mornings and some time at night before and after work to watch a movie, or it's like I have fucking COVID again. Like I could catch up on my list.
Where you're just sitting there scrolling through like HBO Max to figure out what you want to do.
That's basically what I did. Like I did some housework and I did some yard work while I was sick, but then otherwise midday I'd be like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything. Like my body is like out of energy. So I'll just boot up HBO Max, Netflix, Paramount Plus, and went down on a bunch of lists. I finished the Jackass movies except for one and the new one, because the new one I think is on Paramount Plus. So I'm almost caught up on those. I went back and I tried to watch more JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because I had stopped, and I was like, oh, why did I stop? And then I watched 2 episodes and I'm like, okay, now I know for sure this anime is not for me. But I got up to season 2.5. I made it quite a way. I'll skip that and watch something else instead and kind of go back. I'm going to rewatch the Joker movie because it's been a year or 2 since I've seen it. And now with the Joker sequel announced, I'm like, oh yeah, I've got that on my mind. Yeah, I guess it's so random, so crazy. Like I was telling, what a weird thing of it's so different from the first. Like on one part, it's like, okay, don't do the same thing as the first one, but what a departure. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's so random to just be like, you know what we should make? All right, we're going to make a sequel. And it's going to be a musical. Wait, what? Like a musical for the Joker? That doesn't quite sound right, but okay. Especially after the first one, like, sure.
The weird thing is, like, all right, you have the original director, though. That's good. You've got Joaquin Phoenix coming back. That's awesome. Like, there's a bunch of pieces here that are awesome, but it's just, like, very bizarre. And I don't know if that was a misquote or whatever, or if they've officially come out and said it is a musical. I'm not too sure, but it is kind of crazy. And I did not expect that to even happen, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it turns out well.
And meanwhile, Bobby's been out at Pokemon tournaments for internationals or nationals, whatever you want to call it.
He was at nationals this weekend.
So Milwaukee and Columbus. Right now he's in Columbus.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it went straight to another one.
He did. He worked for 2 days and then he flew out the next day. So he and I caught up for the 2 days and then he was gone. Now he's gone again.
Did he fly out?
On Wednesday.
Okay.
So now it's until Monday and it'll be no Bobby at the store. So once again, my dated references will not be understood.
For a little bit longer. Yeah,
a little bit longer. And then, although one of the second oldest coworker of mine, so he's 5 years younger than me, 4 years? 4 years younger than me. He called another coworker who just got glasses and he's got blonde hair and he got these round Harry Potter-like glasses. And he goes, oh, you're the page master. And I'm the only one who laughed. I'm like, he doesn't look like the page master. He looks like Macaulay Culkin. No one else got the reference. And he's like, well, I'm glad my joke wasn't wasted. And I'm like, okay, now you know how I feel, except it's better because someone actually understood what you were talking about.
God.
Had to pull up pictures of the page master.
Like I do page master references to Julian Jacques. Well, to Jacques, and he doesn't get it either. So
that's crazy. Like, how do you not know about the Page Master if you're our ages, you know?
Seriously. Like that was a popular movie at the time.
But that's basically been my work. We've got Pokemon Go, the new set coming out. That should be pretty interesting because it's a limited set. They're not going to do booster boxes. I did pre-order the Elite Trainer box because there's an exclusive Mewtwo V that goes in that box.
Oh.
And then they're coming out with a shiny Eevee. Is Eevee shiny gray or silver-ish looking?
Yeah.
Okay,
like
so
like a grayish and white.
Yeah, then it is shiny
like
Eevee.
White. Yeah.
There's a shiny Eevee promo that comes in one of the boxes, for $70, and it comes with 8 booster packs. I didn't get that one, but I did get the ETB because I think that one comes with 10 boosters. So hopefully I'm able to pull the line of Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur out of that. If I'm not, I'll be fucking upset. But if I pull a Charizard, I'll sell that motherfucker and get the cards I
I'm
need.
sure it'll sell for at least about $20. I mean, that tends to be the Charizards.
And that's the problem. Every time there's a fucking Charizard in that set, there's a Snorlax in this set. And of course there's a Charizard in that set.
Well, of course I had to go for the Snorlax.
Now, it is a 3D Snorlax. I know you were iffy on the Pokemon Go art.
Yeah, but I'll still probably go for the Snorlax. He shouldn't be too expensive.
No, that's the thing about our favorite Pokemon is it's like, yeah, they're commons. They're even if they're rare,
For the
like,
most,
it's $1.
yeah. Like the only ones of my Snorlax that can get rough are some of the older ones. Like
even now, like all that Neostorm shit, Team Rocket stuff, it's so hard to get any of it. Like I know our stock's pretty low on it, and we're considered, at least they call us, and I'm sure it's true, the worldwide largest source for singles.
Jeez.
Like
That's pretty good.
Obviously, if you count eBay, that doesn't. I don't know. Obviously, eBay beats us, but
of course it's out of stock. Sorry,
did you already look one up?
There's a 10 for there's a gift 10 for the Snorlax. What the hell? Why does the gift 10 for Snorlax not have Snorlax as the promo?
What's the promo?
A Pikachu, like a little birthday cake on his head.
It should have been a Charizard.
But the 10 is Snorlax.
It's for Pokemon Go.
There's also a Blissey one that also just has a Pikachu like card in it, and then there's a Pikachu one.
Yeah, I see it. I'm looking at it right now. That is fucking crazy.
What's the point? Because I thought, oh well, I can get the Snorlax promo that way. I'll just buy the 10 to get the guaranteed promo.
One foil. Okay, here you go. One foil promo featuring Pikachu. One additional foil. Okay, so this is the trio, like the Jolteon, Moltres, or Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. You get an additional foil that features either Pikachu, Snorlax, or Blissey. Okay. So that's how they're doing it. But all of them, I guess, come with a different version of Pikachu, I'm assuming, and the Snorlax one has that gift thing on it.
Right.
So you may or may not get a Snorlax. That's a problem for sure. But it is, I guess, one of them in there.
Yeah, but that kind of sucks. Because I was figuring, well, the 10s are always guaranteed whatever the promo for the 10 is.
Well, here's the other question, too, because sometimes they'll put the same exact description on all 3 tins, but each tin will have an exclusive. So it's possible still that you could get that Snorlax in the Snorlax tin.
It also sucks that it's sold out.
Right. I'm seeing it on TCG Player, but yeah, I'd probably check Cool Stuff again, maybe in another week, because I don't know if that's one of those things where, oh, it's out of stock until we know how many we're getting type of thing.
Yeah.
But I know the ETB for sure was on there because one of my coworkers told me, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Let me.
Currently, the ETB is on there along with an Alolan Executor, a Radiant Eevee.
There it is.
The Team Instinct box, and the Team Valor box.
Yeah,
the Team Mystic box is sold out.
Okay, so it is going to be
the one I would go for.
A hotter set then.
Yeah, and then there's 2 battle decks as well that are in stock. The Melmetal and Mewtwo V, and then a combination bundle for the battle decks. And then, of course, the 3 10s, which all 3 10s are out of stock.
And this is the set with that weird Ditto card, the Peel. Peel card.
Where you can't do much without peeling it, so it's just kind of a weird one.
I wonder if they'll do more weird Peel cards like that. Like, oh, and now it turns into a Charizard V or whatever. I don't know. Who knows what they'll do with that.
But Charizard, and now everyone's going to want this set.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way they get that printing done and just do it for this set. I'm sure there'll be some more cards that they do that weird gimmick with.
Yeah, I'm sure they do some kind of gimmick for other ones after testing it out on this one.
But a lot of cool stuff coming our way with Pokemon still. There's another set releasing, and then when Scarlet and Violet launch late this year, I'm sure then there'll be another set for just those new Pokemon.
I figure that set will probably be January.
That makes sense.
Because it would be like a few months after the actual set or the game's release. So
yeah, usually the game will release, and then the set after that is when they start doing like the new Pokemon and all that. Yeah, you're right. It's usually like a set rotation after.
Yeah, it's like and then it becomes essentially the new base set. And then all the other sets start coming out afterwards, and then kind of wraps it all up nicely as like, this is that era of Pokemon
Exactly. Yeah, that first set will be called Scarlet and Violet, and then from there, Crimson Invasion or whatever they want to call the next
Yeah.
fucking thing. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking Ezra Miller and Virtual Console and gaming with me. Please let them know where they can find not only your podcast with Millennial Mike, but also the Lazy Gaming Guy stream.
So you can find Lazy Gaming Guys at Lazy Gaming Guys on Twitter. It'll have links to our YouTube, which is also Lazy Gaming Guys, all one word. And it'll also have links to our Discord at that point as well. You can find me also on the Exiles Network's Ronin Council podcast. So you can find that on Twitter at, I believe, at Ronin Council. And then, of course, if not, the Exiles Network itself on Twitter will have a link to the Ronin Council section of it as well. And that's on Spotify, I believe he has it on, under the Exiles Network section. But he should have a link, or Millennial Mike should have a link on there for it. So yeah, that's pretty much the main places to find me.
Awesome. And you will find links to Lazy Gaming Guys and to @PandaAnime on the description of today's episode, which is Scott's personal Twitter. And that will also have links to, like he said, to the Ronin console and to LGG. But otherwise, you can also find some merch at thereasonsimbroke.com. Click on the pull-down menu, click on merch, and you will find all kinds of t-shirt designs. The Brokehead Core logo, we just put up the summertime logo for the summer. Like, we're here, we're officially in summer, and that's a good one to wear to the beach. It's on light colors, shirts only, so you can get that on light blue, pink, white, cream, all kinds of different choices on there. And if you click on the link to any of those designs, it'll take you to the storefront, and from there you can find the designs. And if you have too many t-shirts, we've got coffee cups, we've got masks. I know some states are, and some gigs are mandating the masks again. So if you want to wear some cool masks, we have them on there again at thereasonsimbroke.com. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us again, whether this is your first episode or number 514. I've been Daniel, joined by Scott from Lazy Gaming Guys and Ronin Console, and Brokehead Core. All will be well. So, Scott, is there an N64? Well, we know N64 is already released. Let's talk about GameCube. What 3 GameCube games would you put on a GameCube Mini console release? And I know they put more than that on the little consoles, but I don't want to make you come up with a full list. So what would be your personal top 3? Not even thinking about the consumers, but what are 3 games that you would want to replay on a GameCube Mini?
So I would definitely say Pokemon Coliseum should be on there.
Oh, with the Dark Lugia, right? Or no, that's
the first one, I think. Yeah, the second one was Dark Lugia. But I think you should start with the first one. So I would love to see that. I think that would be a fantastic one on there. Just because it's a unique Pokemon game and it helps with their IPs and stuff like that. Mario Kart Double Dash.
Yes.
One. Because that is still by far my favorite Mario Kart game.
People bitch that it was too slow. I remember that being a huge complaint on it, like not challenging enough and whatnot, but I had so much fun. Well, like my brother and I, we would each play a different character and we had our strategy down, man. Like anytime I needed on Rainbow Road, if I was going off the road, he would hit the L2, R2s and kind of push me one way or the other to save our ass like several times.
Yeah.
Fantastic game.
And then my final one is an interesting one because I had to make a decision between 2, but the game I like more is Custom Robo. That was a really fun, like, hidden gem of the GameCube era.
Great choice. My brother loved that game, and it looked like so much fun. I would watch him play it, and it looked incredible. Great choices, man. I've got Rogue Leader, man. I've got that on mine. Rogue Leader
was a great game.
I missed that fucking game, and I don't know if we'll ever get it because the company went under. Like, they didn't get bought up by anyone. Factor 5.
Yeah, they just kind of vanished.
So I don't know what happens to the rights or any of that game, or if they just goes away. I have no idea how that stuff works, but we're not going to get it anytime soon. And that's too bad because it was a launch title too. A launch title was one of the best games on the fucking console. That's the crazy thing. Yeah. Obviously Smash Brothers Melee.
Oh, Melee, of course. Melee would be fun. You'd have all the Melee fans finally stop bitching.
Yeah, that's right. And And people like allegedly maybe Ezra Miller would be in that crowd. James Gunn,
Yeah.
he'd be pick up.
You don't know.
He'd be picking up the GameCube Mini.
You can't prove that he hasn't played Melee and that he wouldn't want to pick one up.
I would say normally it's Resident Evil 4, but we've gotten that release so many times. So I guess I'd go with Time Splitters 2 because that's another game that I had so much fun with my brother on. And just doing crazy shit in that fucking game with all of the crazy silly guns and all the character design.
That was a fun game, especially multiplayer.
Yes.
Like with all of the different random characters you could choose from.
And it was like 16 or 32 bots or something insane. It was like the largest ones with the largest maps too.
It was like a good time. Like you just cranked that up at like a LAN party or something, and it was a lot of fun.